afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our tutorial today. As you realize, this is our favorite TMS3715, Teaching Home Languages in the FET module. The purpose of this tutorial is the final guidelines in assignment 3. We've had 4 previous sessions, and hopefully today we can finalize the last 2 sections of this assignment. But just as a way of recap, your lecturers for this module are myself, Dr. D. Sanders, and my colleague, Dr. S. Mukhari. Dr. Mukhari, I'm sure our students would love to hear your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders, and good afternoon, students. It's such a joy to have you. And we are so happy. We were a bit frustrated when we saw that no one was joining. But now that you are here, we wish you all of the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mukhari. And we look so forward to supporting you in your studies. We're here to help you in any way that we can. By now you should have our email addresses, but just as a quick recap, mine is esandard@unisa.ac.za and Dr. Mukhari's is mukhas@unisa.ac.za. Feel free to drop us an email with any questions, queries, comments, suggestions, or just to even say hello and how you are managing with our course. We promise to respond within 24 hours. Just some general comments. I've said this before, so I will just take it in 1 second. I hope that you've all started assignment 3. It's written. It needs some in-depth insight. Read those questions carefully. Answer exactly as asked. Please check your mark allocation. I've been marking assignments that one question has about 5 pages when it's worth 5 marks. It's just a waste of time, and it really tells us that this is probably plagiarism, copy and pasted. And while I'm talking about plagiarism, please reference your work, use your own words, don't go to sources and copy and paste. You cannot get marks. And worse, you all know about ChatGPT. Refrain from using it. You sign at the beginning of each assignment your academic integrity form. Please, your signature shows us that the work is meant to be your own. Don't just copy and paste or go to an AI tool and put in the question and copy their answer. Believe it or not, some answers I see at the end generated by ChatGPT. But it's easy when we read your answers to note if it is copied and pasted from a source or from an AI tool. Rephrase, reference your sources, please, and check your work for typing and grammatical errors. Our assignment is due tonight at 7 o'clock. Please try and submit at least an hour before. Hopefully by now you've just joined just to get some final comments that you may want to quickly go and change 1 or 2 little things. I do hope you all manage to submit before time. Extensions are so complicated and are not generally granted. You can, however, go back and forth between those questions and change your answers as long as the due date has not expired and you haven't clicked on submit. So that is why I often refer to that you can only submit once. That it's available on my UNISA and it's found on our module site underneath our welcome message and assignment 1 and 2. I'm sure by now you don't have problems accessing our assignment. But the most important part of this tutorial is to continue our discussion on question 2, which asks us to use Learning Unit 4 in Tutorial Letter 501, our study guide, which is entitled Teaching Listening and Speaking to Home Language Learners in the FET. You have to read that learning unit very carefully to be able to complete this task. We discussed question 2.1 and 2.2 last week. We will discuss the final two questions, 2.3 and 2.4 now. 2.3 is worth 10 marks, and it asks, or it states, the CAPS document for teaching home languages in the FET states, formal and informal listening and speaking are integrated with reading, writing, and language speaking. And speaking may give written text and oral form, for example, reading aloud. The question asks you to explain how you will integrate the keyword, integrate the above listening text of question 2, which was on climate change in South Africa, with the following language skills: speaking, reading, writing, and language practice. How are we going to integrate the listening text with those 4 reading skills? Skills. Allocation for your content, you will receive 8 marks, so that's obviously 2 marks. We value that. Don't think, oh, my lecturer is not going to agree with what I write or what I feel. Absolutely not. That's your opinion. That's your view. We want to hear it, whether we agree or disagree, as long as it relates to the question. And your format and writing quality, which gives us a total of 10 marks. Let's just get some ideas of how we can integrate speaking into our listening lesson. What about asking our learners to role play a relevant scenario or give an oral presentation on our theme, climate change? We could have learners have a group discussion. They love working together and learn from each other. They can share their perspectives on climate change and its implications for our country. Another fun idea is a class debate on the topic climate change. Let's think of some reading ideas. Let learners do their own homework and find some articles on climate change. They can search the internet very easily and read them out to the class. An unprepared, prepared reading, have some extra reading available on our climate change, and let your learners read these articles or blog posts, whatever is relevant. And encourage your learners to read any additional material and compare the information from what they have gathered from the listening text. Let them see, is there any similarities? Are there any differences? And let them tell the class all about it. Writing. Let learners write a letter to the press, and perhaps in your schools you even have a newspaper and their work in newsletters that can be distributed to the school community. Ask learners to write a descriptive essay in which they express their opinions, propose solutions, and reflect on the significance of climate change in South Africa. Let learners write an editorial to the local newspaper on the impact of climate change on our economy. And here you could even bring into the lesson how our writing must change, whether you are writing a descriptive essay, an editorial, or a letter, or even an email is an idea. The final language skill is language practice. Let learners choose specific words from the passage in sentences, make up sentences, and make sure that it is grammatically correct and punctuated correctly. Create vocabulary exercises based on key terms from the listening text for the learners to complete. And you could set up a language skill exercise that focuses on perhaps pronunciation, usage, some grammar practice that your learners could complete. So those are some ideas of how to integrate these language skills into our listening lesson. And please always relate it to our theme of climate change. As you can see, it's not such a complicated question to answer. If you give one idea for each language skill, that is sufficient. Let's discuss the last question, 2.4. This might be a little bit more thinking, make us think a little bit more, but it says that CAPS identifies 3 types of listening for which learners must be prepared. Listening for specific information, listening for critical analysis, and finally, evaluation and listening for appreciation and interaction. And think, give your own views of what type of listening would be used for your listening lesson on climate change in South Africa. And please, it's not sufficient just to say, yes, this oral text is based for listening for specific information. That might gain you maximum 1 mark. Substantiate your answer by giving at least 3 reasons. Let's have a quick look at all of the 3 different types of listening that CAPS outlines for us. Just before we get on to that, our mark allocation again, 8 marks, 1 mark for analytical insight, and 1 mark for your format and writing quality, a total of 10 marks. Remember to choose any of the 3 different types of listening, or even all 3 that could be used for the listening lesson. So you can choose all 3, however, substantiate, give reasons for your answer, and we expect at least 3 reasons. Listening for specific information. Here, learners collect and synthesize information, construct knowledge, solve problems, and express ideas and opinions. Learning for specific information requires our learners to understand the key facts of the text. In other words, climate change in South Africa. Its purpose is to help our learners gain knowledge about the specific aspects of climate change relevant to South Africa. For example, the implications and the measures taken by the country to address environmental concerns. This type of listening must align with your lesson objectives, ensuring that learners achieve the outcomes of the lesson. So if you're going to use this type of lesson, it must relate to your learning objectives, your lesson objectives, so that the learning outcomes can be achieved. And it will enable you, as the teacher, to assess whether learners have acquired the necessary skills outlined in the curriculum. So that's listening for specific information. Perhaps you're considering using this for your listening lesson on climate change. Listening for critical analysis, one is of my favorites, because it enables learners to recognize the values and attitudes embedded in text and to challenge biased and manipulative language. It will help your learners understand the implications and consequences of climate change in South Africa. Your learners will be in a position to analyze the perspectives presented in the content, such as the viewpoints of experts, policymakers, and affected communities. Obviously, listening for critical analysis, it helps develop your learners' critical thinking skills, which is exactly what we want to help in our country, where we have problem solvers, future leaders, so that they can critically analyze different topics, different policy documents, so that they can be critical thinkers and not accept everything that is just told or that they read. They're encouraged to question, interpret, evaluate, to problem solve the information, which helps promote a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding the topic, in our case, climate change. It prepares learners to form informed opinions about climate change in South Africa, contributes to the development of decision-making abilities. Don't underestimate your learners. Allow them to be critical thinkers and come up with their own ideas and make informed decisions about the relevance and reliability of the information in your listening lesson. And finally, listening for appreciation and interaction. It ensures learners develop understanding of the emotional and social aspects of the topic. It ensures learners understand the cultural and social dimensions related to climate change in South Africa. The learners will be able to connect emotionally with the content of the text. It will enable your learners to reflect on the text, promote self-awareness and personal connection to global issues. And finally, it helps your learners to enhance their communication skills by participating in discussions and expressing their appreciation for different perspectives on the topic. So those are the 3 types of listening. I'm sure you have ideas which one, or possibly, as we said, all 3, would be appropriate for your lesson. But give some ideas of why. Explain your views. So all that's left for me is to say success with the completion of your assignment 3. And my motto that I always end off with, nothing comes easy without hard work. Your efforts will be rewarded. If you put in hard work, we promise you success. And we do understand you can expect challenges. It can be overwhelming with lots of work, but never hesitate to ask for our support if you need.